I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.
This morning, America's first parent to ever stand trial for their child's school shooting, reliving the nightmare moments around the 2021 massacre, including this one caught on camera in a police interview room as Jennifer Crumley confronted her then 15-year-old son, Ethan, who appears to say, "I did it."
Why? I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Moments later, telling her husband, James, the jury yesterday also shown video of when police told both parents their son had opened fire at Oxford High School hours earlier, killing 4 and wounding 7.
You've never done anything bad.
Jennifer adding,
And I really wish we would have taken you home.
Crumley referring to a meeting both parents had that morning, hours before the shooting.
Jurors were shown the moment the parents were arrested. There'd been a manhunt for the couple until they were found in the middle of the night, hiding out in an artist studio.
It's dramatic body cam video of a SWAT team arresting the parents of school shooter Ethan Crumley. The video was played to the jury at the trial of Ethan Crumley's mother. It's intended to show how the Crumleys went on the run following the school shooting, hiding from cops in an artist studio owned by a friend. Jennifer Crumley is lying on a mattress, apparently pretending to be asleep despite the chaos around her. Cops lift up the mattress they were using to search for weapons. The jury was also shown desperate text messages Mom Jennifer sent her son the day of the massacre. "Ethan, don't do it," she texted. Moments later, his father texted, "Ethan, call me now." But their pleas came minutes too late to prevent the murders of 4 students.
Not her pretending to be asleep. Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Kelly, and we're back with another video. If you guys are new to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And if you're into true crime stories, news, politics, and so much more, then I think you would appreciate the channel. And if you're a returning listener or a subscriber, thank you guys so much for being a friend as always. I really do appreciate y'all. And I thank everyone in advance for watching this video. So I wanted to come on here, guys, and talk to you guys about this case. And I hadn't really covered it before. This was kind of a precedent-setting case, and that's kind of what I wanted to come in here and talk to y'all about, is the legal logistics of this idea of charging parents for the actions of their children, and the morality of that, and whether or not that's a precedent that we want to set in this country. And I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about it. I'll try to save my opinion for the end of the video. I'm not going to get into the initial crime, you know, the school shooting that happened at the hands of their son, who we're just not going to talk about that. It's a horrific thing. He was condemned to spend the rest of his life in prison, as he should have been. If anything, probably should have gotten the death penalty. In that case, I believe if you kill multiple people and you're found red-handed, it's open and shut case. Well, what are we still doing with you here? But that's just my opinion. So let's talk about this case and these 2 parents who were put on trial and were just recently sentenced because they were found guilty of the involuntary manslaughter of the victims that their son killed. So let's get into it, guys. So I want to start off with this article by Juvenile Justice Information Exchange. So just 3 days before her 15-year-old son carried out a mass shooting at his Michigan high school in 2021, Jennifer Crumley was captured on security camera leaving a shooting range with the handgun in tow. She had just taken her son out to target practice in what she described on social media as a mom and son day, testing out his new Christmas present. You heard that right. a 9mm pistol the high schooler referred to online as "my new beauty." So the images were pivotal to an unprecedented conviction this week that legal scholars predict could create a new tool for prosecutors as the nation looks for ways to stem a record-setting uptick in mass shootings. This is the last picture we have of that gun until we see it murder 4 kids on November 30th, and the person holding it is Jennifer Crumbley. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald said before a jury convicted the mother on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, 1 for each of the students her son gunned down at Oxford High School. She was the last person we see with that gun. Crumbley is the first parent to be held directly responsible for a school shooting carried out by their child, turning on its head a bedrock legal principle. People cannot be held responsible for the actions of others. So, a University of Michigan law professor said, prosecutors will be tempted to use this power in ways that we don't see. A prosecutor is going to sit across from a parent when people are crying out for somebody to be held accountable, and the prosecutor is going to be able to say, I'm offering you 3 years to 5 years in prison, but if you don't take this deal, I will prosecute you for 15 years. For gun control advocates and the parents of children killed in their classrooms, the landmark trial's outcome was welcomed. Craig Schilling, the father of Oxford shooting victim Justin Schilling, told a local TV station the conviction is definitely a step towards accountability. About 3/4 of school shooters obtain their guns from parents or another close relative, according to a 2019 U.S. Secret Service report. In about half of the cases, the guns had been readily accessible. And I would like to see the numbers on how many of those were actually obtained illegally by way of just having total and free access to the gun, i.e. it was their gun kept in their room, etc., or how many of those cases, which I would probably say upwards of 3/4 were probably an instance of the child obtaining the gun by way of either force or by way of stealing it when the parents weren't looking. I think that that's in the majority of the cases, that is what happens. So I think that, using that is a little bit biased, and it's a little bit dishonest, if I'm being forthright here. So the conviction hinged heavily on portrayals of Crumbley as a neglectful mom who paid more attention to her horses and an affair than to the son she gifted a gun to as he struggled with his mental health and exhibited violent behaviors. So the University of Michigan law professor also said that he wasn't aware of any other cases where a parent was held liable for the crimes of a child who was simultaneously considered a legal agent and therefore responsible for his own actions. Meaning that because, the school shooter was also found to be guilty of those crimes and was sentenced accordingly, that it's uncommon and unheard of, actually. This is a legal precedent in which the parents are then turned around and charged as well. So normally a parent might be charged only if the person who did the action is deemed to be either not legally responsible by means of mental instability or, some sort of disorder or disability or what have you. Maybe even if the school shooter ends up killing themselves, then you might in those circumstances have seen something like this, but even that is very extremely rare. So states nationwide maintain parental responsibility laws which impose civil or criminal liability on adults under the premise that their failures to take control as parents led to the kids' bad acts. There is research that ties youth delinquency to poor parenting. One study noted that such efforts do appear to be cyclical, noting that every couple of decades or so, lawmakers claim to discover the idea of holding parents to account for teenage crimes. Efforts to hold parents accountable for their children's behaviors are rooted in the very origins of the nation's juvenile justice system in the early 1900s, which authorized the state to intervene when parents failed in their duties. According to research into the law's origins and their constitutional implications. By the 1970s, the report notes, lawmakers began to place a greater emphasis on parents as a factor in juvenile crimes and turned to vicarious blaming. And as all laws do, it varies state to state. So you might have states that enforce this more vigorously than others. But I think overall, it's something that doesn't really happen that often. And, it's just, a bit taboo in the country, you know, holding other people responsible for crimes that are not directly their own. So I think that people have a bit of an apprehension, and a healthy apprehension, when it comes to going across this line and really taking this to the next level. So in a high-profile cyberbullying case from 2013, a Florida sheriff bemoaned his inability to arrest the parents of a girl who was charged criminally for harassing a 12-year-old classmate so relentlessly online that it led the girl to die by suicide. Among the harassment was an online message encouraging the 12-year-old girl to drink bleach and die, yet the parents continued to give the bully access to social media. I'm aggravated that the parents aren't doing what parents should do, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd told reporters at the time. Responsible parents take disciplinary action. And I don't know all the details of that case. We're going to talk about this case specifically of the Crumbleys, and all of the evidence was brought forth by the prosecutor in their case to basically say this is why these parents should be held responsible and why they need to be sentenced and convicted of negligent homicide. So let's get into it.
The jury was presented with quite a few key pieces of evidence while in court yesterday on day 3 of testimony. Today will be day 4. They also heard from a number of key witnesses yesterday, including a school counselor at the high school at the time. And that counselor talked to the jury about a meeting that he had with Jennifer and James Crumbley just before that shooting. During that meeting, they talked about a violent picture that was drawn by the 15-year-old gunman. Now, the counselor told his parents that he believed that their son was depressed, needed mental health help, that the 15-year-old was possibly suicidal, but not necessarily a threat to others based on what he knew. Now, the shooter's parents did not pull him from school on that day on November 30th, 2021, because they had to work, and we all know what happened next. Now, the prosecution also played video of the Crumbleys' first encounter with their son after he had killed 4 students and injured 7 others. Take a listen to a little bit of the back and forth between the prosecution as well as that key witness, that school counselor.
Did Jennifer Crumbley tell you that her son texted her on March the 20th, 2021, that he was hallucinating?
No.
Did Jennifer Crumbley tell you that in April of 2001, she had told a friend of hers that she thought Ethan was depressed?
No.
Did Jennifer Crumbley tell you that she had referred to her son as weird?
No.
With guidance counselor Sean Hopkins, who yesterday testified he called the parents to the school after a teacher caught Ethan watching videos of a man shooting people. Hopkins said Jennifer Crumbley
felt a little bit distant.
What do you mean by that?
More just kind of like it felt like it was a little bit of an inconvenience to be there.
She and James have pleaded not guilty to 4 counts each of involuntary manslaughter, with Jennifer Crumbley being tried first. Prosecutors arguing she helped her son get access to guns, took him to a shooting range, and ignored clear signs he was violent and suffering from mental health issues.
My words were, I wanted to be seen as soon as possible, but it was made quite clear that it wasn't possible to do it that day.
Why do you say it was made clear it wasn't possible to do it that day?
That they had to return to work.
Crumbley's attorney arguing Hopkins never followed up with the school's principal about his concerns Ethan was suicidal, proving the defense argues no one could have known what the teen was planning.
And it's worth noting several victims' families have since sued the district, naming that guidance counselor's decision not to follow up about his concerns as a sign that school officials also ignored warning signs.
The prosecutor's going to have to show that Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of the Oxford High School shooter, was grossly negligent. And what does that mean? Well, in the testimony today with one of the counselors from Oxford High School, it pretty much came out that the mom knew that her son had hallucinations, was depressed. No way was there any kind of mental health treatment for him, and yet they facilitated a gun, took him to the range, etc.
Yeah, I know you just said, and we all know that Jennifer Crumbley is the one on trial here, but you hear in that video the mother say, I wish we would have taken him home moments after meeting with her son. Does that just put the onus on the counselor here, perhaps implying that he needed to insist more for the shooter to be taken home? Talk about that.
Well, that's a good one. I mean, that would be a good defense if you just say, hey, listen, the counselor is a professional with multiple hours and degrees and all that kind of stuff. And yet the judge specifically asked the counselor, did you order the shooter to not go back to class? And the counselor said no. Counselor did want the shooter to get therapy immediately, but that counselor was concerned about suicide at that point in time. And the counselor felt that if the shooter would be with people, he would not be able to commit suicide, as opposed to going home because the parents had to go to work. Now, again, listen. Facts, lawyers can make facts do anything here. But again, those are the facts. And again, gross negligence. What does that mean? We'll get that a couple days from, during when the judge tells the jury what the law is. But bottom line here is that a very crucial part of evidence today was those meetings just before the shooting and just after the shooting.
So there were many pieces of evidence presented in this trial as to why the prosecutors felt that the parents of the school shooter should be found guilty and should be found responsible, negligent as parents. And, they presented some pretty compelling pieces of evidence, like the fact of the matter is that this child was neglected to a large degree. And I think that this can be generally true when it comes to parenting these days, is that a lot of people tend to check out when it comes to their kids. And I think that is generally what was happening in this home. This boy was living in a filthy environment. His room was, he was not held responsible for keeping it clean or tidy. So he was living amongst filth. And it had gotten so bad that I believe he was also using another spare bedroom to sleep in because his room had been filled pile high with trash. He was not regularly taking care of his hygiene. He had multiple cavities in his teeth. His teeth were showing signs of rot and decay, and his mother didn't really seem to be doing much about it. And not only that, he had many mental health issues. He had expressed both in journal writings as well as directly to his parents that he was dealing with mental and psychological issues that he felt he needed to get help for. And this was, for the most part, brushed off by the parents as, just basically, oh, you'll get better. And then there were text messages that were exchanged showing that Jennifer Crumbley showed little to no regard for the concerns that were brewing under the surface of her son's emotional state. There were text messages where he would express certain things to her about, wanting to do harm, or he would get in trouble at school for drawing pictures of guns, being caught searching for ammunition during class, things of that nature. And she would, send text messages basically trying to be his friend more so than she was trying to be a mother towards him, is what was alleged. She was also alleged to be having an affair at the time, and so the prosecution were trying to paint her as a woman who was more invested in her own personal life. She had horses that she was taking care of that was more like a hobby that was taking a lot of her time. They argued that between the time taken by her hobbies as well as her affair, she didn't really have time for her family. She didn't really have time for her son. And the father was pretty much exactly the same. They were just absent-mindedly going through their life and not paying attention to their son when he needed somebody to pay attention to him. And there were countless warning signs that were ignored for the most part. So all of this was presented in this trial, and ultimately these parents were found to be guilty.
These cases don't happen that often because these facts don't happen that often. They are egregious.
And so now let's get right to Fox 2's Jessica Dupnack. She's live with more on what happened in court. And Jess, we just heard from the prosecutor, so much disturbing evidence presented today.
Unbelievable, Roop. This was day 2 and the final day of testimony here in district court. Shortly after 4 o'clock, the district court judge made the decision that there is enough evidence to send both James and Jennifer Crumbly to trial for charges of manslaughter each. Now, it was really tough to see what evidence was presented in court today, especially for some folks in the courtroom, parents of some of the victims of the Oxford High School shooting. Haunting video shown in court Thursday of Ethan Crumbly at a shooting range with his mother, Jennifer, practicing with the same gun used in the Oxford High School shooting. And a first look inside of Ethan Crumbly's bedroom.
And what do we see on the wall here?
Those are silhouettes.
2 human silhouettes for target practice on his wall, bullets on a nightstand, a Nazi collector's coin, and a half-gone bottle of whiskey by his bedside. Then Ethan's journal found in the bathroom at the school after the shooting.
Out of those 21 pages, how many discuss the Oxford High School shooting or his plan to shoot up Oxford High School?
Every single page.
Every single page.
The Crumbleys both crying in court Thursday as entries from their son's journal were read.
The shooting is tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Comma, I have access to the gun and ammo. It says the first victim has to be pretty girl with a future so she can suffer like me.
Oxford High School counselor Sean Hopkins taking the stand, testifying he warned the Crumbleys hours before the shooting Ethan was a threat to himself and needed mental health help immediately. Jennifer said she would get him help, but could not that day because she had to get back to work.
In any of your meetings, when you call parents because you have that kind of concern, have you ever had anybody say no?
I have never had parents arrive to the school and not take their student home.
If you tell them they need to.
Correct.
Crumbly's defense showed there was no text message evidence on the Crumbly's phones that their son was homicidal using this mountain of digital evidence. But prosecutors responded using testimony of conversations Ethan had with a friend about his frequent hallucinations and a mental breakdown he'd had.
He says, I actually asked my dad to take to the doctor yesterday, but he just gave me some pills and told me to quote unquote suck it up.
Yes, sir.
Then he wrote, like it's at the point that I'm asking to go to the doctor. You remember seeing that?
Yes, sir.
And then seeing, my mom laughed when I told her.
Yes, sir.
You saw in the story there that one of the school counselors took this stand today. Now, we asked Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald if she thought that any school officials should be criminally charged. She told us no, she does not see anything right now that shows that they should be criminally charged, but of course, several lawsuits against school officials. Reporting live in Rochester Hills, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, you can see allegedly so many signs that the parents ignored. But, you know, you mentioned that the mom didn't take him home or to help get him help that particular day. But throughout the testimony, was there any word that the school wanted to send him home or should have sent him home?
The counselor that took the stand, Sean Hopkins, he recommended that they get Ethan immediate mental health help. However, one of the higher ups, the dean of students, said that there was no disciplinary reason that he should not return to school. His parents had to go to work, and then he went back to class.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people wondering if that would have happened, if he would have went home, that maybe things might have been different. Just.
And this is my biggest problem with this whole mess, you know, and it is a mess at the end of the day, no matter what you think about it, is that the school, okay, you know, as much as they try to put this off on the parents, which there's enough blame to go around here for everybody, never fear, but I think that if you as a school administrator have a inkling of a thought that a child is a danger to himself or other students, after multiple warning signs, after multiple issues with, you know, guns being drawn on pages of homework or during class, ammo being searched, and you find that to be alarming, you find that to be disturbing enough to call multiple meetings with the child's parents, and on the third day of such meetings, you make the recommendation for immediate mental help, and the parents don't elect to bring their student home, why at that point would you allow him to go back to class? And what we now know is that he had the gun in his backpack during all of this time. I mean, even a quick search of his person and his school backpack and his locker would have done the trick to stop this. There is just so many things that went wrong. The perfect storm was created for this child, and he was a child at the time. I'm sorry, you can be a child and still be held responsible as an adult, which is what happened here, and I agree with that. I think that is the right thing to do. But he was still ultimately a child, and he has to pay now as an adult for what he did. But nevertheless, why was that not more forcefully executed? Why was that not more treated as a 5-alarm fire? I mean, even if he wasn't going to be sent home, why not search him and his belongings? I mean, it's just like, it couldn't even be fathomed almost that he would have a weapon on him, which is crazy to me. I mean, it's just beyond insane to me.
Here is a comment from Prince George's County High School student Jason Branch.
First off, I feel like it starts at home.
Had an emotional public safety community meeting this week that focused on a spike in juvenile crime.
Yes, there are some hard-working parents out there that may not be there for their child 24/7, but I still feel like they should be held accountable.
Jason's comments raised this question: can a parent be charged criminally for the acts of a juvenile? Our sources are the U.S. Constitution, a key U.S. Supreme Court opinion, Maryland Civil Code, Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy, and Nina Villamar, the Chief of Parental Defense for Maryland's Office of the Public Defender. We learned the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution protects parents from being criminally prosecuted for the crimes of a child, according to numerous Supreme Court opinions. In one example, Justice William O. Douglas wrote in a 1945 case, "The doctrine of personal guilt is one of the most fundamental principles of our jurisprudence." He added, "It prevents the persecution of the innocent for the beliefs and actions of others." However, according to Maryland civil law, parents can be held financially liable for damages committed by their child and be forced to pay restitution up to $10,000. But it's up to victims to petition the court. In addition, agencies such as the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services or a prosecutor can seek a Child in Need of Supervision petition, or CINS, according to Prince George's County State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy. A judge can then force a parent to take specific actions to control their juvenile, attend family counseling, or place the juvenile in foster care or a treatment program. However, such petitions are rarely used, according to Nina Villamar, the chief of the Parental Defense Division of Maryland's Office of the Public Defender, who can recall only a handful of such cases filed in the past decade. So, we can verify that no, a parent cannot be criminally charged for crimes committed by their juvenile child. But Maryland authorities do have other options, including making parents pay restitution if their child damages someone else's property.
Well, joke's on you, Baldy, because tell that to the parents of the school shooter from Oxford High School. And this came out in February of 2023. And like I said, every state is different. But from what he's saying here, and from what the Supreme Court has previously said, and it seems like this could get overturned quite easily. And it seems like this is not what has been the legal precedent that has been set forth by the U.S. Supreme Court, which in that case, yikes. It seems like this could have been all for naught. But I will say this, and this is my opinion about this whole thing. It is a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous precedent. It is a very fine line, and it's a very touchy subject to even try to have a definitive opinion or a definitive outline for going forth with, charging parents for the crimes of their children. I think it's an uphill battle. And I think that for the most part, as, someone who's more inclined to say that, I don't like that. I want less government, and to me that feels like more government intervention in people's personal and family lives, and I that gives me the ick. But at the same time, if this is going to be applied, first of all, I want it to be applied uniformly across the board. No matter what race of people you are, but this should be applied uniformly, not just to white parents of school shooters. It should be applied to people that are low income, who don't raise their children right, who are completely neglectful, even more so times 10 than these parents were to this young boy. There's many such cases of this, and I'm sure we can all envision in our minds who we're thinking of, okay? The TikTok parents, the parents of kids who are, seen doing X, Y, and Z all over social media without a care in the world from the parents, okay? Everybody needs to be charged across the board. So that's where you really get into dangerous territory. But I do think that it is a good idea, and I think that it can be a helpful deterrent and maybe hold people responsible and give people a sense of accountability for raising kids that are meaningful adults and who will be contributing members of society. Because a lot of parents, like I said in the beginning, are on autopilot and they do not give a fuck about their kids whatsoever, could care less, are more interested in their own lives. And that is why we have the youth with the problems that we have now. That, and then there's other factors too, like social media and the internet access. All of that plays a part, but it also plays a huge role with the parents being absent parents when most of the time they're right there in the home, but they're living in a separate world from their own kids. And it's damaging. And people can feel it all across the nation, okay? And you can be the best parent that you want to be and do everything right with your child. And all it takes is for one neglectful piece of shit parent to ignore their kid, ignore all the warning signs, treat their kid like shit, abuse their kid, let others abuse their kid, to damage that child, for them to then take a gun to school and to kill your child. Okay, so it's really everyone's responsibility here, to a certain degree. It's everyone's responsibility to try to, bring back a little bit of shame within the community. Okay, let's shame bad parents. Let's let people know that you need to have standards when it comes to your own children and raising these kids out here. People cannot just, turn it on and off. Parenting is a full-time job. And especially with kids today, I know it's harder than ever. So I get it, but this is unacceptable. What a lot of these parents we see doing, or I should say not doing, all over social media and allowing their kids to do. The disrespect that's allowed, the neglect that's allowed, and the state doesn't even intervene anymore. There's no shame from society. It's all just in a downward spiral, and this is what we end up with. So I think that all the evidence presented against the parents of this school shooter, it did paint a pretty damning picture. I mean, I think obviously there has been parents, and there are existing parents currently that are 100 times more neglectful of their own kids. And I think that it's horrifying the environments that some of these children in America have to grow up in. And I have so much empathy and sympathy for that. And I wish we could save them all. I really do. I wish every child could have the upbringing that they deserve and be brought up in a loving, caring environment with parents that are worth something. But that is sad but true reality that is just not the case for, I would say, most kids in this world, okay? Which is sick, but it's true. So yes, maybe there does need to be some accountability, some responsibility put forth onto these parents of kids, and not just kids that kill other people. Maybe when kids are constantly getting in trouble for violent crimes or, theft or even drugs, whatever the case may be. If there's a pattern with a child and a parent who you can be provably shown to be neglectful through their social media activity or their text messages or whatever evidence you can gather, then maybe they should be prosecuted. And I'm not talking about 10 to 15 years like these two parents received, because I feel that maybe that might be a little bit excessive, but who knows? According to this guy, this seems like it's illegal because it's going against the Supreme Court precedent that was set a long time ago. But we'll see if this gets overturned or not. I do just think that 10 to 15 years was excessive for two people who never even killed anyone and were found guilty of 4 charges of involuntary manslaughter. So I don't know, is looming a threat of punishment, personal responsibility for the parents if they don't pay attention or at least try to parent their child, you know, for their child's actions? Is that going too far? Is that a bridge too far for you guys? I don't know. After really thinking about it, because at first my knee-jerk reaction to this was, this is insane and this is a horrible precedent, and I don't think that this should be going forward whatsoever. I don't believe that they should be punished. But after looking at all of the evidence and after really reconsidering, you know, a little personal responsibility and the threat of criminal liability might be some answer to some people's problems out there. I'm not saying it would work across the board, but I also think that CPS needs to be getting involved maybe a little bit more and actually doing a job whenever they do get involved, because that's another just rabbit hole that I'm not prepared to go down right now. But CPS has been abhorrent in their handling of cases since the beginning of time. Okay, they suck, just like any other alphabet agency that is, you know, a part of our government. They need to do a better job also, and they need to be getting more involved and actually doing their jobs when they do get involved. So I don't know what the right answer is, but I think that the sentence was a little excessive here, but I do think that the idea of holding people to account and, you know, making them understand that whenever you bring a child into the world, that it's your responsibility to guide, foster, and parent that child, lest he become the next school shooter. Yeah, maybe there is something to it. But I want to know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like the video if you guys liked it, and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more like this, and I would appreciate it. And until next time, I will see y'all later. Bye.
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.